Geek out, everyone. It is the Monday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Hope you had a good weekend. It was nice to have a quieter weekend weather-wise, although the heat certainly became a story. By the end of the weekend, we officially hit 90 yesterday for the first time this year, and we did it again today. Let's start out with the definition of a heat wave this evening, because I do think we'll make it an official heat wave when all is said and done. We hit 92 today, and our forecast for tomorrow is 91, so 90 yesterday, 92 today, 91 tomorrow. 3 consecutive days of 90-degree temperatures is generally what we think of as a heat wave in our part of the country. So we should officially arrive at that designation on Tuesday, and then the heat will start to subside. 92 today was actually the hottest temperature we've had since early July of last year, when we hit 94 on July 7th, I believe. It was maybe the 8th. It was during the first 10 days of July. That was our hottest temperature we had last year, and actually it was the hottest temperature we had dating back to 2012, that 94 that we had in early July of last year. The low temperatures this morning, in many heat waves like this, we see low temperatures like this, but it's becoming more and more common. I mean, yikes. Lower 70s, mid 70s for lows this morning, and we're warming. The climate is warming in every month and every season here locally and in most of the world. But during the summer season, the temperature change, I think, has been most noticeable with the overnight lows as opposed to the daytime highs in the last few decades. Look how the overnight lows have been steadily increasing since the 1980s. Really, since the 60s. The 70s were actually a little warmer than the 80s for overnight lows, but there's been a definitive trend. You get the idea here over the last several decades, and especially over the last 10 years or so. We've seen a marked increase in those overnight low temperatures during meteorological summer. All right, it's time to take care of the 4 foots. So when it's this hot outside, a lot of hot weather tips are spewed out at this time of the year. Some of them are really kind of like it's unbelievable that they need to be said, like find an air-conditioned room and drink lots of water. Well, that's, you see that on every newscast, but to me that's a little bit of an insult to everyone's intelligence. Some of the ones that I think are maybe a little bit more value, they have a little more value, because most people don't understand how hot pavement temperatures can get, concrete temperatures can get, the inside of your car, things like that. And when it comes to walking dogs on a day like today, you don't want to walk your dog on a parking lot or anything like that that has been baking in the sun, because concrete and especially asphalt can get extremely hot if it's sitting out in the sun with air temperatures around 90. Asphalt can be 138 degrees. So make sure you're walking your dog in the shade, on the grass. If you do need to walk on pavement, make sure it's in the shade and not something that's been sitting there baking in the sun for quite some time. So our high today was 92. The heat index peaked at the Youngstown Warren Airport at 95 during the 2 and 4 o'clock hours this afternoon. The heat index, kind of like the summertime equivalent of the wind chill. It's basically the apparent temperature to the body. We sweat, of course, when it's hot out, and sweat is our body's way of cooling us down. It's kind of like air conditioning. It's all about evaporation. You get that little layer of moisture on your skin, in the air evaporates it. That leads to a little bit of a somewhat of a cooler layer of air right next to your skin. It's kind of, how air conditioning works. It's all about water evaporating. Well, when it's this humid outside, that evaporation isn't as efficient. That process is not as efficient, and so you don't cool down as fast. And so the heat index becomes more and more of a problem as we go up through the 90s. For particularly sensitive people, the elderly, the young, those with health complications, heat index values in the low 90s can be problematic. But especially once we get into the upper 90s and into the triple digits, that's when you get into heat advisory criteria for our area, and that's when even people who are in pretty decent shape can run into some problems if they're exerting themselves too much outdoors without taking some breaks and hydrating. Well, thankfully, we've only got one more day of this, and that is tomorrow. Tomorrow is pretty much a rerun of today. We'll see temperatures in the low 90s, heat index values mid-90s, and then the heat starts to back off as rain chances start to increase later in the week. As of this recording, one dying shower moving through Mercer County. This actually had a decent amount of thunder and lightning, maybe even a little small hail with it during the 6 o'clock hour when it was closer to Greenville, and the core of the thunder and lightning moved up into Crawford County, just south and east of Meadville. Over the last 15 or 20 minutes, we had a couple of scattered storms earlier in parts of Trumbull County, especially around Mesopotamia, and some small hail associated with that one as well. Pretty garden variety summertime stuff, and we'll see kind of the same thing tomorrow. Temperatures as of 7:08 in the mid-80s here locally. Look at the national view. Very weird map. When you have this kind of crazy ridge along the west coast, the rest of the country can be a little weird. El Paso, Texas, 67 degrees. Albuquerque, 62. Even Dallas is not hot, 79 degrees in late June, late in the afternoon in Dallas, Texas. Of course, the big story across the world, really, is this enormous ridge of high pressure situated over the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. It's going to take a second for this satellite loop to load, but I wanted to show you the water vapor imagery across the region, and I'll actually stop the loop because it's going to take too long to load. Let me see if I can scoot this forward to the present time. Huge ridge with the counterclockwise flow around high pressure in the northern hemisphere. It's easy to spot on the water vapor imagery, and this thing is so anomalous that, I mean, I've seen a lot of amazing weather records in my day, but some of these temperature records that are being smashed in places such as Portland and Seattle and even into the Vancouver area and the rest of British Columbia, I mean, it's just amazing. Records are all time for any date. Records are being smashed by many degrees. The all-time record was established yesterday in both Seattle and Portland. Those all-time records are being broken the day after. That means today. So Portland, Oregon, 115. Now, just to put this in perspective, the all-time record high temperature in Las Vegas is 117. So Portland is getting close to the Las Vegas all-time record high temperature. Of course, there's going to be a lot of studies on this event, and no doubt that climate change is playing some role. Some percentage of this is because of human-induced climate change. It'll be some time before it's determined maybe how much of a percentage. This sort of craziness is, unfortunately, going to become more and more common as the climate across the world continues to warm. All right. Speaking of warm, we're going to be in the low 90s tomorrow. It's going to play out just like today. There's not much of a trigger for wet weather, but in the heat and humidity, enough instability builds up a pop-up shower or storm in the afternoon. Activity will become more organized, though, by Wednesday, especially afternoon, and into Thursday as a sluggish front inches through. Now, these can be fairly slow-moving, and these can bring some downpours as well. Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening, a little bit of a lull then Wednesday night, and then more rounds of showers and storms on Thursday. The flash flood risk is pretty low tomorrow. It's higher out across the Midwest, but that flash flood risk does become elevated across the region as we go into the day on Wednesday. So we'll have to watch for some tropical downpours not only Wednesday, but into Thursday as well. And these will be the two most active days of the week, Wednesday and Thursday. But you'll notice, as of now, our forecast for Friday and the weekend does include some chances for some pop-up showers and storms. But if you have outdoor plans for the 4th of July, keep checking the forecast because, this is only Monday and the 4th is on Sunday. And we've got some forecast challenges ahead. This is the European model showing that trough digging into the Great Lakes and Northeast. This is what's going to shut down the warmth and introduce, of course, some rain chances. This is Friday. Now, as we fast forward this to the 4th of July on Sunday, the European takes this trough, an upper level low, and moves it pretty quickly off the playing field. And that would suggest that the 4th of July would be a pretty nice day. A little bit on the warm side, but probably dry. The GFS and some of the other modeling as well does kind of cut off low pressure for a longer period of time and farther south. So look at this. By Sunday, we have a cutoff low almost still right overhead instead of the European, which is up here. Taken literally, this would suggest an unsettled 4th of July with chances for showers and some storms. The GFS actually has a little more support with this idea from some of the other modeling than the Euro does, which is a little unusual for the longer range. Usually the Euro has more models in its camp than the GFS does when they have differing ideas. So this will be something we keep an eye on for 4th of July plans. Keep checking the forecast over the next few days. That'll do it for me tonight. Thanks for watching this extended version of Weather for Weather Geeks. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.